My quote for today is one of my favorite musicians in the world, and that's Jimmy Buffett. And Jimmy Buffett once said, "It takes no more time to see the good in life than it does to see the bad." Isn't that nice? It takes no more time to see the good in life than it does to see the bad. And it's a choice. It's a choice how we want to see our world. It's a choice how we want to see other people. It's a choice how we want to see situations. And all of us can be outraged and enraged about a lot of things in life. But we have to be careful because our rigid ideologies sometimes leave us so bound, and we end up being held hostage to our own ideals.
When I say what we need to do is to invest in the beauty of life. You know, when Ernest Hemingway says that that happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know, if you contrast that with the greatest architect in American history, which was Frank Lloyd Wright, he said, "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes." Isn't that a wonderful quote? The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. And I'll read you the second part of that quote. He said, "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. If you foolishly ignore beauty, you will soon find yourself without it. Your life will be impoverished. But if you invest in beauty, it will remain with you all the days of your life." Think about that. Think about the best friend that you've had for the last 20 years. I guarantee you they look more beautiful to you now than any other time you've known them. Even though we've grown older, and even though I keep getting shorter year by year and losing more hair, I guarantee you, Annie and I, our relationship grows more beautiful every day that we share together because we're investing in the beauty of each other. Which is why when you invest in the beauty, that friendships last.
Ultimately, isn't that what life is all about? Seeing the good in people, like, Jimmy Buffett's quote. One of the things that I would teach in my positive psychology class is that I would have my students try this little experiment in which they would create a gratitude journal. And actually, I ran into one of my former students after having not seen her for 10 years. And she said to me, "Dr. Bird, I still do that every day. I do my gratitude journal." And it's something that's so simple that when you go to sleep at night, if you just write down 3 things that went well today. 3 things that went well. That's it. It could be like, "Hey, I found a parking spot. Hey, I went to this drugstore and they were not out of toilet paper." But to be able to just write down 3 things that went well. And it's kind of interesting because after I had my students do that for several weeks, they would come back and they say, you know what I found interesting about my day, Dr. Bird, is that I started to notice the things that were going well in the day. I would be driving home and I would see this beautiful sunset. And I would say, "Ooh, I got to remember that because Dr. Bird wants me to write that down in my gratitude journal." But they started to appreciate those small things. And actually, Rick Hansen wrote a book called Hardwiring Happiness. And he said if you take a moment to savor those moments that go well during your day, just those little things, it actually does begin to impact your happiness.
When you stop investing in the beauty of people, you start to discard relationships. I once worked with a person that was so miserable where I worked at the college. She was a professor because she just kept discarding relationships. I am not going to talk to those secretaries anymore, not after the way they treated me. I'm not going to talk to that person anymore, not after the way they treated me. And so you're allowed to have a bad day, but they're not. And she kept discarding relationships until pretty soon she's one of the most miserable human beings I ever knew because she gave up on the beauty in people. And there's beauty in everybody. We're all going to have our faults and our flaws, but there's beauty in everybody. I talk about the investment in beauty. That's what we want to do. That's the best thing in the world, and it doesn't cost you a cent to invest in the beauty.
And also, there is a lot of research out there about people who keep gratitude journals. They count their blessings right before they go to sleep, that they not only sleep longer, but they also have a better quality of their sleep. But I'll also mention is that imagine that it was your job to see the good. And years ago, I was really inspired by this wonderful short book, and it was written by Heather Lind, and it's called Find the Good. And it's just about a small town obituary writer. And her job was every day or whenever someone had passed away in this small town to go out and write that obituary and to find the good in their life. You know, we're so quick to find the bad in other people and jump to conclusions about people. But she said that it wasn't a burden to write obituaries, but it was one of the greatest gifts that she ever had in her life, to be able to celebrate people by seeing the good in them, you know. And so with that today, I'll just say I hope that you'll see the good, because it's worth it. Life is worth it. Very difficult things that we go through in our lives, and what gets us through those things is the hope in our lives. So take care of yourself and take care of others, and remember, before the sun goes down, be sure to tell someone that you are grateful they are in your life.